The Outer Side is proudly supported by Tie Gear. Head to www.tiegear.com to explore the wide range of high-quality camping essentials, including guy ropes, screw-in tent pegs, tie-downs, and heaps more. Tie Gear. Adventure secured. Dog and Gun Coffee. Check out www.dogandguncoffee.com to grab yourself some bloody good coffee ready for adventure. G'day and welcome to The Outer Side. I'm Tony, and in this episode I'm joined by Marty McInnes from Redarc. Welcome to the show, Marty.
Thanks, Tony.
Before we get started, mate, we're going to ask you the fast five. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions and you're going to answer with the first thing that comes to mind.
Hit it.
What is your dream car?
200.
Ooh.
Surprised you, didn't
A
it?
wagon 200 or a chop 200?
Well, fantasy car, chop, but a wagon.
Is that like that MSA thing that like... Sorry, Shane. Okay, sorry. We need to pause the fast five. What do you mean?
Well, I can afford a 200. I'm never going to get the chop.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. So we've got to pull it back a little bit.
Yeah, but it's your dream car. It could be anything. You can take like a Bugatti Veyron.
Let's go the chop.
All right. Same. What is the weirdest thing you've ever Googled?
Well, I'm 6'8".
Yeah.
How to dwarfs wipe their ass.
Wow.
Leave it. Just think about it.
All right. What is the best movie of all time?
Top Gun.
Ooh, I like it. If you could have an unlimited supply of one thing, what would it be?
Stone and wood.
Pacific Ale?
The Pacific Ale.
Yeah.
Did I answer too quickly?
No, that's
point.
good. Yeah.
Know what you want.
That's good, actually. Stone and Wood Pacific Ale is one of the greatest things on the planet.
No headache.
Really?
Never.
Really? Good business, too. They sold that for a fortune.
Not silly boys.
Nah, very good. Wasn't Mick Fanning involved in that?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And look, I don't think he's clever, but I think he was I think he was at the right place at the
He
right
has
time.
other skills, though. He's very good at surfing and fighting sharks.
Yes, this is true.
What would you eat for your last meal?
Roast pork in the back of my ute.
Would you cook the roast pork in the back of your ute, or would you eat it in the back of your ute? Because
Well,
I don't
both.
reckon you'd be able to fit in the back of your ute.
No, on the trundle.
Oh,
So yeah, that's our dining table. But yeah, in the air fryer in the back of the ute.
really?
Yeah, best pork crackling you'll ever
Really?
have. I'll
all
spoil
right.
you one day.
Well, you're spoiling me by giving me your time tonight, mate. So, look, where do we start? So, what's your role at Redarc?
BDM, so mining industrial.
Okay.
So I look after all the big yellow trucks, the industrial guys, your canopy builders, so your Mitz Alloys,
Yep.
one of my guys, your high drives, all those sort of industrial builders, as well as, Mitz Alloy does touch in the recreational space as
big
well,
time.
right? So, but yeah, all those sort of guys. So yeah, it's pretty full on. Ambulance is one of my big things at the moment.
Really?
Ambulance New South Wales, yeah, absolutely killing it at the moment. They've got a bunch of builds coming. So yeah, Redarc product going into those.
I have to call you out on something there.
Yep.
I'm not sure that New South Wales Ambulance should be killing it. I think that their job is actually to do the opposite.
They're recovering.
Yeah. No, sorry for the dad jokes, but
Bring them.
yeah, right. So, how long have you been with Redarc?
Coming up to 3 years now.
Yeah, okay. And so, as a BDM, you're in sales basically.
Look, I don't want sales on my title.
Yeah, okay.
Because if you're talking about sales, I'm the worst salesman that there is.
Yeah.
Because I want to educate you to understand what you need to.
And you'll be like,
your
you don't
working
actually
happy.
need that.
Look, you'll hear me saying that at shows all the time.
I'm pretty sure you said that to me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, but as in terms of like business development, you're educating customers on what they need and trying to get them the right products to satisfy the problems, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way for a customer to achieve their goals is to buy and supply the right product for their customer.
Yeah.
So some of my customers, I don't just look at Redarc stuff either. Like I'll actually go in there and help them with their business.
Yeah.
So where are they falling down? Where are they succeeding? And I'll just sort of guide them down those roads. I've had my own company for a number of years.
Yep.
So yeah, I've got those skills as well. But yeah, the big part is helping them understand what does what and making sure they're not utilising the wrong products for the wrong outcome.
So it's quite a technical, call it a sales role. It's quite a technical role in terms of you need to have a strong technical understanding to be able to sell them the right product, right?
Yeah, look, so the sales team in Redarc, most of us are auto electricians.
Okay, is that your background?
Yeah, so my first trade was auto electrics.
Yeah.
And then I went into motor mechanic, air conditioning, LPG, domestic sparky, all while on the tools under a bonnet.
Yeah, right.
I did all of those. Later on, I went on to mega yachts and super yachts, and that's what my company was, doing refits and outfits.
In Australia or overseas?
Global.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a good experience.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
Met some pretty fancy people, I tell you.
Oh, I'm sure, and saw some very fancy boats, no doubt.
Absolutely, things that artwork inside the boats are worth more than what we could dream about it being. So
yeah, that's a whole different world, isn't it? That super yacht world.
Yeah, it's next level. It's pretty eye opening. It's pretty exciting, but don't try and keep up.
Oh yeah,
you just ruin yourself. Yeah.
And I guess so. What sort of work were you doing on the super yachts?
So doing wiring, so electronics and electrical.
A lot of wiring in one of those suckers.
There's a few meters.
Yeah. And I imagine like just the power requirement. It's like a city, right? Some of those things.
Yeah. So they're running big gen sets most of the time.
Yeah.
Like we're running 20 kVA generators and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Just to keep them lit up.
Wow. So that's like, I don't know anything about this stuff, but is that they'd be running like a full 240 system like a regular house, right? Like you'd be able to just plug in anything anywhere, or is it more than that?
Basically a resort.
Really?
Yeah, so some of these boats, 20, 30 cabins. Every cabin has a TV in it. And then you talk about the saloon. Might have, back then, 85-inch LED TV was enormous.
Yeah.
And they'll have 3 or 4 of those through. One of the boats I worked on had 674 speakers throughout it.
It must really like music.
Boof boof. Yeah. So it was a lot of dancing, a lot of lights, and a lot of cool stuff. Yeah. So it was good fun. But yeah, it kept the head working, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. So I suppose like when you then look at a vehicle 12-volt system in like a recreational four-wheel drive, you're like, there's not much going on here compared to that, right?
I love it.
Yes. It's a simpler time.
Yeah.
So
look, it isn't more difficult, but I wouldn't say it's simpler. There's a lot of variables still in this space. Like just because it's here and not over 100 feet doesn't make it any more. Look, the best way I used to describe to a lot of the guys, break it down to systems. Don't think of it as one big system, break it down to little systems. And we do the same in these builds, right?
Yep.
So we break it down to our charging, our DC output, our AC output. So as soon as you've moved into those 3 systems, you've changed, from a decent size install to 3 small installs.
Yeah, right. And I suppose like the benefit of being a smaller space can also be a challenge because you're working in a smaller space, right? Like you don't have as much room to install things, and
especially when you're 6'8".
Well, that's where I was getting. That's sort of where I was going with that.
Yeah. So you work smarter.
Yeah.
Like you build a panel. So you build it on the bench, and you build it, and you put it in, and then you do your final connections. Get your harness. If it's a canopy, get your harness in your canopy.
Yeah.
It's in a caravans. You do it very much the same. So yeah, you just work a bit smarter.
Yeah, right. So you were qualified auto elect first. Is that where you started?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and then you decided to do mechanical after that?
Yeah, I was lucky. I worked for a company that did pretty well everything.
Yeah, okay.
I then ticked the box for mechanical, and then I changed companies, and then I ticked the box for 240.
Yeah.
Going back to the other company, air conditioning, LPG.
Yeah,
ticked
right.
the boxes with those as well. They were really good to me. I was with them for 11 years, Arcus Autos. So that was a good company. G'day, Chris. And it was good fun. And learnt a lot with those guys. But then, I went to the boat world.
Yeah.
And obviously there's 240 throughout boats.
Yeah.
So, went and did my ticket with that.
So that'd be pretty handy though, having like the electrical and mechanical and friggy background, because all of that is in a super yacht, right? Like,
mate, I tell you do your auto electrical ticket and you've got all these little questions running around your head all the time. Then you go do your mechanical ticket and everything sort of then clicks. Then you go do your 240 ticket. and that more things click along. So these little switches just constantly turning on in your brain and just connecting all these different trades together. It's about learning, right? You don't have to be a trader, you just got to be learning. So, get an understanding of how it works is the biggest thing. I'm always the guy that pulls everything apart.
Yeah, you see, I do that, but then I can't usually put it back together again. So then I call someone like you and ask for help. But I think that's something that's quite unique, right? Like a lot of people, when I was talking to Tommy from Performance Tourers, like he's similar in that he's done his auto elec and he's done his mechanical, and then he's obviously really into his computers with all the tuning side of thing. But he was saying that he did it because he was frustrated with relying on other people's work, so he'd rather just do it himself so he's got control of it.
Look, I'm the same.
Yeah.
Look, even when I was building my house down the road here, I get tradies in. I did most of it myself, and then I get a tradie in and I'd pay him, and I'd look it up and down, and I'd rip it out and do it again.
Yeah.
And it's the same when I'm doing cars, and you get that level of perfection. I don't want to call it being anal, but I am.
Yeah.
But it is that level of perfection that can be achieved. So I think someone like yourself, you don't know that can be achieved, right?
No.
You only know what you know.
Yeah.
Where I've seen it, I've done it, and so I expect it. It's like even with the Redarc kit, like taking that to somebody else and getting it done. I prefer just to wait and find the time to do it myself, so it doesn't get done.
Yeah. Well, we talk about that all the time on this, like the mechanic with like a heap car, or like the house painter whose house needs painting. It's like it's always the way, right?
Yeah. Look, Dad's a painter, and look, his house is Mickey Mouse as far as the paintworks are going. But if it wasn't for Mum, it'd be horrendous.
Yeah. You got to have that like motivation in the background.
Last thing you want to do is it when you get home, right?
Yeah, and it's funny, like I'm at the moment I'm really trying to like do a lot more on my cars myself, and like yesterday I pulled the boat trailer apart and like put all new leaf springs in it, and in the past I would have just like taken it somewhere and paid someone to just for those playing along at home. Yeah. I'm not a suspension expert, but I reckon that one it was probably at the point where it had reached the end of its useful life. So we're about to tow the boat up to Southwest Rocks on Monday, and I went 800k return trip. Maybe we'll put some new springs in.
She'd be right, mate.
Anyway, well, it probably would be all right. But,
good move.
Yeah. That wasn't planned. They just happened to be sitting there because I don't know if they're meant to go in the regular rubbish. But, like, even stuff like that, I'm trying to do it myself. Once I know how it all works, and like that's the simplest thing ever, right? It's like 10 bolts. But also, so often when I pay people, I'm not happy with the way it's done, and or I damage something else in the process.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, right? Like, you know what you do. Like, as is a perfect example, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's a chippy.
Yeah.
And look what he's done on this. What do we call that car?
I'm not going
to
repeat that. I love you, Aaron. You know I love you.
But
Aaron's GQ Patrol that and I've seen that progress happening. Every time I go to his house, there's like full diff housings on the floor. I'm like, do you know how to build a diff? And he's like, not really. But he just figures it out, right?
Yeah, and then you hear it whine down the road.
Yeah. But no, he's a fantastic example. And, people like that, the more time I spend with them, I'm like, you know what? I should put the effort in. And it's really rewarding,
Absolutely, it is. Look, and he's smart about it too. Like, he does use the YouTube content and all that, and there's a lot of it out there. But like only yesterday, I got a text message from him. How do I do this? And you know what? Exhaust those options, and then reach out to somebody you know that can do it. Yeah. Because there's nothing worse than reaching out to somebody and saying, "You idiot."
Yeah, you should have called me.
But you know what? I've always said, like, I've had many apprentices. Question you don't ask me. That's the question that'll get you undone. Yeah. And then I'll make a real dick of you. You didn't ask the question. So.
And that's exactly right. And, even with Az, like, he put those diffs together, but he got the centers built by a diff specialist. Certain things that there's like, there's that nuance and there's experts who are doing it.
Yeah.
So you rely on that. But I think it's such a good thing to have that level of understanding. Obviously, you've gone way beyond that by getting formal qualifications in all of it. But then, I suppose, from Redarc's point of view, when they employed you, they would have looked at your experience and gone, oh my God, like, you're overqualified, right? In terms of, you're not just a Sparky, right? You've done all this other stuff in the past.
I took a opportunity for a bit of life balance as well when I came to Redarc. And look, I really enjoy it. I get to see Exmouth to Carnarvon with Pat last year. Hopefully I'll do Northern Territory, Cape York this year with them. So a lot of those little trips, did with Rico. I did a trip with him through Lithgow. So a lot of cool experiences like that, doing stuff like what you do, like
mate, I just slave away in the office, lots of spreadsheets. I don't ever have any fun in the course of my employment.
It's that brother of yours, right?
Yeah. Nah, but you're absolutely right, man. And like working for companies like we work for, there's so many opportunities to just see and do cool stuff.
And Redarc's amazing like that. The amount of people, like we've got engineers, we've got lawyers, we've got everything in the business, right? Like there's 400 staff now at Redarc, so it's grown massively. Anthony's done an amazing job with the business, but the encouragement to get that next level of go do a degree, go do this, go do that.
Yeah, right.
They will. Encourage you to go do it. You go do it. You do it well. They're covering the costs.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
It's amazing. The things, and that's why they are what they are, right? Like Anthony and Michelle are amazing people, and they back their staff to grow. And
and I can tell that from knowing quite a few people at Redarc over the years. Like the culture there is fantastic, right? It comes through in the work and the quality of products, but it's like you can tell that the owners actually care about the people that are working for them, right?
Yeah, well, Anthony sits in the car with me like 3 or 4 days a year.
Yeah, right.
Like so, he'll come over and he'll just before Christmas normally, and we'll spend 3 days, and he'll just be asking me questions, how's things going, and it's not just about work. It's about he's really interested in how I'm doing.
So for anyone that doesn't know, Anthony Kittle's the owner and managing director of Redarc. So he didn't start Redarc, did he?
No, he purchased Redarc, I'm going to say 36 years ago now.
Yeah, right.
So to give you an idea, so I'm 51, and when I was 16, 17, I would order 3 Redarc products to fit one.
Really?
That would work.
What a failure rate,
That would work. Yeah. So I knew once I put it on the truck, it would work. And if it worked, it worked. It worked forever. But if you put it on, it might not work. So you put another one, and off it goes. The way he's turned that company around to what it is now, to what it's known for now, next level.
Quality, reliability, and amazing customer service, right?
Like you would not believe. That's the one thing he really prides himself on.
So what were those products that you were fitting to trucks back in the day? Was it little isolators?
No, voltage reducers for trailers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they were the only ones making them. We still make them. So
right.
Some of them anyway, yeah.
So how long's the company been in existence? So you said he bought about 36?
Yeah, I'm going to pluck it. I'm going to say close to 50 years.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And he's had it for a big chunk of that.
Yeah, my understanding, the company began and how it got its name was, I can't remember the fella's name, but we do have a room named after him down in Adelaide. You've probably been in it.
Oh, probably, yeah.
And yeah, it was a contract with Porsche to build an ignition system. He looked down and he saw a Redarc. Game over. Name began.
Well, it's cool. I think it's a cool name. Yeah. It's easily marketable anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, right. And so, like, from that, a voltage reducer, which I'm not an electrician, but pretty simple product, to what you're doing now, it's a completely different ball game, right?
Look, if we look at the alpha products, like the managers and the new BCDCs that have come out, seriously, game changers.
Yeah.
Like, for me to give you a full rundown and understanding of what I know about them, I'm not touching anything else.
Yeah.
Like those new BCDCs. So I've just fitted one, as I mentioned, Ambo before. Fitted one to Ambo and one of the new 100 amp batteries that we've just released. Down in Queanbeyan for the Cooma station to run a trial. Now they're having troubles with their lithium batteries turning off. As you know, when they get cold, they go to sleep. They just shut down and protect themselves. So our new one's got a heater in it. Keeps itself nice and warm. You don't have to cuddle it to get it turned back on anymore. And then also the BCDC R variant, so the higher end of the BCDC, it also will load compensate. Okay, please explain.
Yeah, please explain.
Okay, so we turn all our lights, we turn all our floodies on and everything like that. We've got our fridge running. So let's say we're pulling 25 amps. The BCDC will actually ramp itself up to cover that 25 amps and not wait for the battery to dip down.
Yeah,
Because you've got to remember, a standard BCDC is only monitoring that battery.
Yeah.
So it sees it dip down, and then, oh, I better hammer it, and then brings it up.
Yep.
So it'll continue to do that. Where this one will load compensate, see the load, and just keep
So it's like
supplying
preemptive.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's can't call it the shunt because we don't call it that.
What is it?
Smart battery monitor.
Oh, actually, I was going to say, I think I have one here somewhere, but
you do.
Yeah, it's still in my office at work. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, I've actually got one of those new Alpha chargers to go in the 80, which I'm
Yep.
pretty excited about. So,
Yep.
50 amp manager, which would be pretty cool.
Yep.
So, the funny thing about my 80 is I'm still running a very, very simple Redarc product,
Yes.
as well as some very complicated Redarc products. So I've got one of the, I think it's an SBI 12 little isolator. And a few people, including my Auto Sparky, have asked me why I still have that in the car when I've got a pretty comprehensive 12 volt setup. And do you know the reason why I'm running it?
You got dual batteries under the bonnet.
Yeah.
Same chemistry.
Yeah. So I can jump start my own car.
And you can jump start as well. Yeah.
So I'm running like a 200, soon to be 230 amp lithium for all my camp setup, fridges and everything. But I've retained the deep cycle under the bonnet, and it's a very heavy jump starter. But it's saved my ass on more than one occasion when I've been in the middle of nowhere and been able to bridge those two batteries and start the car off itself.
You know something else that's pretty exciting? Now that you've got the Alpha in the back,
It can do it.
you can charge back. So it's not a jump start, it's a recovery. So it takes 10, 15 minutes and you're off and
So
going.
if I run my crank battery down, I can feed charge off the lithium back into the crank battery.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, hey?
So you got, what, two? Save your ass?
Yeah,
Cards
plus
now?
a little King Chrome jump starter if it really goes to
Jeez, let's hope you never need that, eh?
Yeah, no, but it's funny, like, when I look at, like, that isolator, and when I bought my 80, it had the isolator and two, I guess, lead acid batteries under the bonnet, and that was it, running a fridge. What I've got now is so complicated to a simpleton like me, but in terms of, like, how easy it is to use, it's brilliant, right? Like, and having all the monitoring and all that stuff, it's pretty cool.
Keeps you up to speed, right? You know where you are.
Yeah.
Something that happened to me when I was going Everest, going Exmouth to Carnarvon, setting up camp. All the guys were off doing a little film shoot. I was setting up swags and whatever. Had the radio cranking on the Everest, like you do.
Yeah.
Battery was a little bit tired on the Everest. Went around to start it. Machine gun.
Yeah.
So it had a go block in it.
Yeah.
So opened my phone, connected my phone to it, opened my phone up, went into recovery mode.
Yeah.
Seriously, it was from the time I walked from one side of the car to the other, I hit the key and I could start it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So even off a little portable thing like the Go Block, you can feed battery power back.
Well, the Go Block's pretty much got the BCDC 50 in it.
Yeah, okay.
Alpha. So
it's a 50 amp charger and a 100 amp battery in one box.
correct.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is that something that's been pretty popular for you guys, the Go Block?
It has been, yeah. You would have played with a bit in Sooty.
Yeah, well, I borrowed one from you for a while.
You did, yeah. So, it's been a good bit of kit. Look, it's going to last you 10 to 15 years. 10 to 15 years time it turns over.
Yeah.
Send it back to us. Whatever it costs to repack it, we'll repack it and off you go.
As in cells?
Yeah.
So what's the go with lithium? So like, when we talk lithium batteries for like a four-wheel drive or a caravan, what is there like a number of cycles that it can go through that will kill it eventually? Is that the way they work?
Yeah, so it depends on how you look after the battery. Right?
Yeah.
If you're sticking it next to an 800 degrees Celsius turbo, okay, let's not talk about it, just don't do it.
Are you suggesting that my turbo gets to 800 degrees Celsius?
I'm suggesting it gets pretty warm.
yeah. Thankfully, I don't have a turbo inside the cabin of my vehicle where my lithium battery is. So, okay, so heat can affect them?
Absolutely. So they'll turn off around 80, 85 degrees Celsius, some even lower.
Yeah.
And look, they all have a differing cycle life.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you the spec on the new one because I'm not certain of it, but I know our Alpha battery is 5,000 cycles. That's what I run in my ute.
So that's a full discharge and recharge, or part thereof?
80%, I think it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that.
So what does that translate to in like say if you've got like a fridge running in your four-wheel drive?
Days. Yeah.
Days
of running before. Look,
so you're talking like years before you're going to need to replace the battery though?
10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a 5,000 cycle life. Unless you're somebody that runs your battery right down and all the way up every time. Like my system's lucky to get below 90% normally, unless I'm out for a big night and I'm doing a big cook up in the air fryer and I'm pulling 250 amps continuous.
Oh, wow.
Well, I also run the induction at the same time. You know,
okay.
got to do
Yeah, but
other things.
okay. So we'll talk about your car in a little while because that's not a regular regular setup.
It's a show car, right? It's showing what we can do.
But in my car, I know like I very rarely set a battery below 70%, and I don't run solar.
Yeah.
So that's purely just vehicle charge.
I got 360 watts of solar underneath my rooftop tent at the moment.
Oh yeah, perfect. I'm
Yeah,
sure that'll be
works
doing a
great.
fantastic job
Not
of
at
charging the battery.
It comes
So
on and off, right?
I guess that's one of the things that, you know, I'm lucky. I work in the industry, so I get good prices on lithium batteries, and you know, we're building show cars, so we're going to put the best stuff in there. But talking to a few people, you know, they go, "Oh, lithium batteries are great, but they're so expensive." But when you compare the price to the number of cycles and the useful life, like AGM batteries don't last very long.
Oh, do the math.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got to reach deeper in your pocket today,
yeah,
but you don't have to reach in there again for another 10 years.
yeah.
So do the math. It actually works out very reasonable.
Yeah, it's actually not bad. It's just one of those like, sort of like, not buy once, cry once, but you've just got to kind of like suck it up and pay the money, right?
The big thing, Tone, is AGM also, which is what we used to all use. And look, I was one that didn't want to move over to lithium, I'll admit. I was like, AGM has worked for me, why do I want to change? Then I went to lithium, I was like, oh, this is a game changer.
Yeah, it's different.
It's a next level world. If you want to look after an AGM battery, 100 amp hour battery, you're only using 50 amp hours of it.
Yeah.
Not to mention it weighs 30 kilos.
Yeah. So that was the big one for me, like going from an AGM setup to a lithium. I couldn't believe that I had a battery that had double the capacity and it was like half the weight.
Yeah, exactly. Like 450 amp hours, and it weighs less than one AGM 100 amp battery.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you know, obviously in tourers, the weight is a consideration, as I've found by filling my car with stuff and then trying to remove a lot of that stuff that I don't necessarily need.
Taking the dots off.
Yeah, but so where do you see that technology going? Like, a lithium battery is going to continue to get, you know, higher capacities and smaller sizes, lower weights, or is there like a physical limitation in terms of where they can go?
You have to ask the chemist.
Yeah. Okay.
It's look, I can only see there being another level of, you know, smarts in battery technology. It's always evolving.
Like a different chemical compound or something.
Yeah, maybe. Like we've gone through 3 or 4 different lithium style batteries just to make them safer. So yeah, and I think a lot of it will come back to how we manage it.
Yeah.
So a lot of these problems we're seeing with the lithium world is because of the way, number one, probably the install.
Yep.
Majority of the time it's the install. Number 2, the quality of the product. So there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of power inside that little plastic box. There's not a lot to hold it in there once, you know.
Yeah, if something goes wrong.
Like you watch one of those, I saw one of the very first electric buses that they built, and it was, you know, pure lithium cells, and they had batteries across the roof, hole underneath it. It was awesome.
A giant bomb.
But it was a flamethrower for 28 hours. I think it was 24 feet.
Because you can't put it out, right, once it starts.
Just walk away. Let it do its thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fill it with sand, cover it with sand or whatever you want. You can do. Some people throw it in the water, but it's just making you safer. It's not actually reducing the.
It'll still burn, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That creates its own oxygen. You put it in space, the thing will still burn.
That's somewhat scary with a giant lithium battery in my cabin of my vehicle.
Yeah, look, but that's what I was saying. Like, but then we've also got the newer chemistries. You know, your lipo and yours. It's a lot safer. It's a lot more managed. It's how we manage that power.
Yeah.
So we make sure we don't overcharge it. We make sure we don't. The BMS can turn itself off and protect itself.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're just going to make sure we do it smart.
Yeah, and without this turning into a Redarc ad, I guess that's, for me, why I would be happy to spend more money on a quality product rather than some of the cheaper, you know, regardless of where they're made, some of those cheaper products, because at the end of the day, this stuff can be really dangerous, right?
Yeah.
In the wrong configuration, if it's installed incorrectly or if it's a poor quality product, it can
absolutely.
burn your car to the ground.
Get pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
And who's going to back you? So I got a lot of mates who are auto electricians, obviously, who have their own shops.
Yeah.
I always say to them, if somebody brings in a product, no brand, just somebody brings in a product, don't fit it.
Yep.
Once you sold it, don't fit it, because you're a small auto electrical shop, and I can tell you straight away, Big John is going to come after you and say it was the way you installed it, not their product.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't sell it, don't fit it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's there's a lot of places that I deal with that won't fit. If I bring them something, they'll be like, no. For whatever reason, they'll just go, nah, I'll either sell it to you or I won't touch it.
The reason you're selling it is because you know it's a reliable product and you've got their backing.
Yeah, and I mean,
so
there's an insurance aspect to it as well, right?
Yep.
Like if something goes wrong and someone gets hurt, who's liable for it?
Exactly, yeah. You don't need to go down that road if you've got a small shop.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Thankfully, I'm pretty certain that podcasting is like relatively okay. I don't believe I'm liable for anything. I don't know. We'll see.
Let's just keep the brands out
If
of it.
no, yeah. I just mean if the garage collapses on you right now.
Yeah, right.
I guess there's some sort of insurance covering us. I don't know.
We'll be right.
It'll be fine.
Let's not worry about it. Let's not let it happen.
It's got me this far. So when we talk about like the Redarc stuff, your vehicle in particular, which is out of frame here, but I'll throw a photo of it. It's pretty cool. It's ludicrous insofar as there is every possible 12-volt thing and a lot of 240-volt things that you can jam into one.
Yeah.
What is it? Ford. I was going to say Hilux.
PX3.
PX3
I
Ranger.
don't fit in Hiluxes. My knees rub on the dash.
You should try driving my GQ Patrol.
No.
I don't think you'd be able to. I think you'd be able to fit in
be
the
able to close
cabin.
the door.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
So that vehicle is obviously a show car.
Yeah.
So it's showing the possibilities, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So give us a rundown. What is in that thing?
So 3 150 amp hour alpha batteries. So 450 amp hours. Manager 100.
Yep.
So I can charge those 3 batteries up in 4.5 hours from dead flat.
Wow.
I also have the Red Vision Prime, so it's the older girl with the 530 amp outputs and the 510 amp outputs, 6 water tanks and 2 temp senders.
Yeah, wow.
So it's a big caravan product.
Yep.
And then I also have the Rogue in there, so 10 amp outputs.
Yep.
So I actually use that for all my lighting because I can dim lights with that. So it's pretty cool. I don't need to put multiple lights on now. I can just ramp down the big floodies.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
So that's in the TVMS itself. It
Correct.
can, and how does it do that? Like, does it lower the output?
PWM, Tony.
What does that mean?
Pulse width modulation, so it turns it on and off faster.
Yeah.
So more on than off to be bright,
Yeah.
and more off than on to be dim, in layman's terms.
Good. I need layman's terms. I'm but a simpleton. And then you were talking about air fryers and induction cookers. So a big inverter.
3,000 watt.
Yep.
Yep. So she bangs out pretty hard. So I ran my 50th birthday off that car.
Really?
Had a band. Had lighting.
Yeah.
We had a kegerator. We had cookers. We had a big, what do you call those, big pressure cooker thing going and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we didn't hold back.
Yeah.
And yeah, it ran all night, no problem. I had a backup generator just in case.
Yeah. That's pretty cool though.
Yeah. It was
And
sweet.
Far more user friendly than a Jenny because generators are really loud.
Well, I don't have enough extension leads to get it far enough away, do
Yeah,
I? So
yeah.
you want to get them over the hill. Yeah, so the 3,000 watt banger, mate, silent running, right? Like, well, the fan kicks in, that's all you get. Fan on the inverter when she starts getting a bit warm. That's my rig, mate.
And then heaps of solar.
Yeah, so 360 watts of solar. So
With a tent on top.
it does come off. It does come. It's not on there all the time.
Yeah, good.
But I will be putting something new that's coming from Redarc on the top of that tent in the future.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. So you'd see all manner of different setups in the different vehicles. So like when you said an ambulance, what are they running it for? Are they using it as a start battery for the vehicle or are they using it to run systems in the car?
Well, as you can imagine, they've got heaps of crap in the back.
Yeah, lots of monitoring.
They have stuff to keep you alive, so you want it to work, right?
Yep.
They're auxiliary battery,
okay.
like what we run,
Okay.
for real important. They've got, they call it the Ace Tech unit, which turns everything on and off. It's It's like a Rogue on steroids, if you like.
Yeah.
And then they have inverters, they have all that sort of stuff going on. So it's I think even when they're just sitting there with everything turned off, from memory it was 20 amp draw.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's why the load covering, for the BCDC is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. So you've got things like ambulances, then you've got MITS Alloy doing, pretty crazy setups in canopies. So you guys fitted out our Ranger build.
Yep.
Thank you again. And that thing, everyone I showed just goes, oh my God, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And what you were saying before about the install, like it's so neat.
Yeah.
And it's quite modular.
Yep.
Right?
That's what they build it on the bench. They get smart, right? Put it on the bench. You can stand there. You don't hurt your back. You're not squatting down in a canopy. So build it, wire it, and then you just have your cables hanging out to hook up. If you're smart, you got a harness in your canopy, and you just plug it in, and off you go.
So like those setups in those, I mean, obviously MITS is a premium product.
Yeah.
It's not a cheap train canopy, and people are putting pretty crazy 12-volt setups. The one in the Ranger's probably a bit weird in that it's got not a huge amount of battery power, but then it's got quite a lot, big inverter and that sort of stuff. What are people putting in those sort of canopies? Is there a lot of setups like that, like real big sort of 12-volt setups going into them?
Yeah, so especially when you're buying like a MITS canopy, like those guys got the pockets.
Yeah.
Okay. But if we're moving to our sort of mid-range canopy, they're still going pretty full on.
Yeah.
Like they still surprise me what they do. So it's probably more like what you run in yours with a lower amp hour, a smaller inverter, and maybe not go a Rogue.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'll just go the normal switches. But yeah, so I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the pocket.
Yeah.
And that's fair call. Everybody's got their budget, right? You're putting your hand in your pocket for a train canopy. That's pretty rich to start with.
It's a lot of money, yeah.
And you throw another 10 grand on for electrical package. If you can afford it, awesome, go for it because you won't regret it.
Yeah.
But you've also got to curb your enthusiasm sometimes.
Yeah. I see some of the setups and like, particularly at four-wheel drive shows, like you see some of the things and you're like, okay, it's cool, but do you need all of that?
Absolutely you do.
Oh,
if you've got it, you need it.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Once you've had it, it's hard to go back, put it that way. You know that.
Yeah, well, you see, this is something, one of my mates called me out about this just this week, because I've had a lot of conversations on this podcast about, actually one of them was with Aaron in my very first episode, talking about simple camping, right? And in the industry, we get exposed to all this amazing stuff, and I think it's like an arms race. Like you end up like, I need that, or there's this new thing, or I need more power, and like we're all constantly like trying to have the latest and the greatest of everything. But
you don't need it.
The GQ runs a BCDC 1225 and a 100 amp lithium battery, so pretty fancy battery, but it could be an AGM and a fridge.
Yep.
I have no camp lights. I don't even have interior lights in that car. I have nothing in that car. And I'm the butt of many jokes when I'm, on a four-wheel drive 24/7 trip, and as is there with the MIT 79 with everything and
all the toys.
Yeah, but I still have fun in that car.
Of course you do.
However, I much prefer touring in my 80 series with all the creature comforts. So it's one of those things, I guess you've just got to weigh it up, like how often you're going to use it.
Yeah.
And I think...
Well, we had that discussion the other day, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're going away, if you're just running up the mountain, you run up the Wadigans for the afternoon, the evening.
Who cares? Take an esky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unless the fridge is in the back of your car, you're going to take an esky. Why? Because it's there and it's easy.
Yeah.
And it's going to be colder.
Yeah, exactly.
And we all love a beer off ice.
Yeah.
But if you're going touring...
Yeah.
That's a different story. You need a few comforts.
Yeah. I mean, we did the Simo, it was quite a while ago, 6 years ago now, and I ran half of my fridge as a freezer. Yeah. And we were eating Maxi Bonds in the middle of the Simpson Desert, and that was mad.
Yeah.
But having frozen meat, particularly, like having cryovac meat that I could freeze and then defrost as we went on that trip, because we were pretty much, we'll call it off the grid, but we were remote for like 2 weeks, and it was nice having enough power to have the freezer running and have those options.
And when you're traveling like that and you're setting up every night, that gets exhausting too, right? And so to pull out the induction, plug it in and cook something, and then just throw it back in and go to bed, so much easier than cooking a fire or getting out the gas bottle, getting out the thing, waiting for it. So much more instant. You're eating in half the time. So yeah, it is a luxury.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that sort of travelling, it's moved away from being a nicety to something you really do want, because it's just going to save you time.
Yeah, and it makes you want to do it more, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If it's easy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely there's pros and cons for both, but I think for that remote extended travel, like having heaps of battery power and having a really nicely set up 12-volt system is really cool.
And that doesn't mean it has to be full on. It can be pretty simple.
No, well, even like the Ute, 100 amp lithium is heaps.
DC in a battery.
Yeah.
You can do so much with that. So obviously at the shows, you get a lot of young guys, our P-plate mates, rocking up to me saying, "Oh, Marty, I'm building this, I'm building that. What should I do?" It's a piece of string.
How much money do you have?
Yeah, look, it's not only that. It's like you can have all the money in the world and you can build it completely wrong.
Yeah.
Because you got to work out how much driving you're going to do each day, how many days are you going to be parked up for at a time, how big's the alternator on your car?
Yeah.
Well, I had up the alternator on that because it tried to flip it over when I started it up
because the managers is that because the managers are now pumping so much current that they're killing the alternator?
Yeah, so the alternator on that was 160 amps.
Oh wow, okay.
And I've now upped it to 245, purely because I was pulling 100 amps. So they have a bit of juice going through. Everything's electronic in it, right? Yeah. So they need a bit of power. Then you turn your spotties on and that sort of stuff, which is running off my start battery while I'm driving. And I got 100 amps going to the rear.
Yeah.
I'm running out of power. And then I go plug my caravan in, which has got a 50 amp manager in it.
Yeah, right.
So I'm now pulling 150 amps. So the beauty of them is you can ramp them down.
Yep.
So when we're up at Upper Alum, the car and the van were very low, because we're under a canopy for 5 days and it was pretty wet up there as well, so a lot of black cloud. So driving home, I knew I'm going to be pumping the car and I'm going to be pumping the van as well. So I just ramped the car down to, I think I ramped it down to 40 amps to charge those batteries, and then left the van as it was.
Yep.
Van's only got 150 amp hours in it, so it charged pretty quickly. So charged that up, and then we stopped for dinner, and I was able to ramp up the car again.
So and all that stuff being adjustable is where I guess some of the smarts come into it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the ability, as opposed to an old school isolator where it was just on or off kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's good to have that, but knowing you have it and how to operate it is key.
I wouldn't have a clue, man.
Yeah, so something I'm going to spend a bit of time with you on is how to do those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because you're going to be out there and people come to you because you got the head you got.
And I just go...
So, a little bit of education. It's only going to take probably half an hour.
Yeah.
And that could save somebody from not being able to get their rig home.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, yes, I have quite a complex 12 volts setup in the 80, but the reason that I've gone with that is because it's simple for me to operate.
Yeah.
So like, it's very easy. There's simple buttons and it tells me everything, so I don't have to know too much about it.
Yeah, I constantly get the question, why didn't you go to touchscreen? Big part of our audience is the grey nomad.
Yeah.
They still don't know how to use an iPhone.
Yeah.
So, and also, I know when I'm out working,
dirty.
My fingers are dry. Like my skin gets super dry. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I can't get a lot of touchscreens to work. So buttons, a little bit more reliable.
Yeah, well, I mean, at GME, we don't do any touchscreen stuff, right? Like it's all tactile buttons because people are working with gloves on, or they've got dirty hands, or muddy or whatever, and it's like, not everything has to be a touchscreen.
And if you want touchscreen, just hook your phone up to it or your tablet.
Yeah.
Did you see the new tablet app?
No.
Pretty cool. So, nice big display, white background. Yeah, can't describe it. They've done really well.
Grey Nomads might not be good with iPhones, but they do like an iPad. I've seen many of our Grey Nomad friends around the country with iPads.
If they can get it all on one page, they're a killer. They'll beat anyone.
Yeah, very good. So you've done, I guess, we were saying you've done like ambulance stuff, you've done four-wheel drive stuff. You mentioned mining.
Yep.
So what's going into a mining vehicle?
So not the stuff you're aware of.
Okay, so it's different.
It's a Hummingbird product. So that's a business that Anthony bought back in 2014. I'm just plucking
about that.
Yeah, something like that. Purchased the company back then because we needed a mining presence. And so, we found this product called Hummingbird, which was actually up the bay, at Nelson Bay Way. So we bought it to the Williamtown office, and it still is, it's built and everything in Adelaide, like most of our products. But our engineers, we've still got a lot of those engineers in Williamtown.
Yeah, right. So is that like monitoring sort of stuff for mining, or you can't talk about it?
Silent horn. I know, it blows your mind, right?
What?
A silent horn?
I had one of them in the 80 for about 5 years. It just didn't work.
The wire fell off?
No, yeah.
I wish it was that simple. No, so basically cabin-to-cabin communications on a horn tube, basically. So noise pollution, silica in the air. So opening the door to hear the horn on the digger, when to pull in or pull out. We have cabin-to-cabin comms. So the digger operator will hit the horn as he normally would. No horn noise. It'll actually send a signal through to whatever trucks are in a certain vicinity. Yeah. And then tell it to come in. So we use GPS and RF comms.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so pretty clever.
That's cool.
And we can set a parameter on how close. So every truck on the site will hear it, but it won't alarm it because we've set that perimeter around that digger. The digger number will come up on the screen saying what digger it was. So if you've got two diggers working on the bench side by side, and this bloke's actually going to this digger, and this guy's tooted it just at the same time, he can just glance at the screen and say, I was actually digger 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, 4.
Yeah, right.
So yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I think, for me, I've been through the Redarc factory, which was amazing. It was cool to see where all the stuff gets built. But it blows my mind, like, how broad the product range is, right? Because for four-wheel drive guys, it's like, yep, DC chargers, batteries, inverters and that sort of stuff. But there's so many other things that Redarc's involved in.
Defence and aerospace, right?
Yeah, I wasn't allowed into that building.
I've been in there heaps. What do you want to know? I'll have to kill you.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't think I have the necessary security clearances. But that's
very
obviously
cool,
a big
right?
thing. Yeah.
So we did win the Hunter frigate.
Oh, yeah.
So we actually build lights for them.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, pretty cool. We never made lights before.
Yeah.
Now we do.
There you go. And that's what I think is so cool is like, and obviously under Anthony's leadership, we don't know how to do it, but we'll figure it out and we'll get the right people.
We got the gear to do it.
Yeah.
So, SM3, SMT lines now, I think we're geared up to get ready to put the fourth in.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, pretty exciting. Was it 10 components per second?
Yeah,
we can
crazy.
Place on a board. Pretty wicked.
You
guys have got the similar.
Yeah, we've got similar. And I think at GME we often talk about Redarc because we look up to you guys in terms of where you're at with expansion into global markets and defence and all that sort of stuff. And the way that Anthony's built and runs that company, we go, yeah, that's the right way to do it. And there's a lot of parallels between GME and Redarc in that we manufacture electronics in Australia, which is weird.
And expensive, right?
Absolutely, it's expensive, but high quality products and yes, they're expensive compared to some of the cheaper alternatives, but that's why I run all that gear in my car because I know that it'll work, right?
Well, when you're going remote, you want to get home.
Yeah.
It's handy.
It is handy, and things like it's not going up the Wattigans for an afternoon wheeling with your mates and having cold beers. It's like I need food for my family while I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. And I think one thing Anthony did really well was diversify the business.
Yeah.
So he saw that, our main audience is the RV sector.
Yeah.
Okay, so caravanners, four-wheel drivers, those sort of guys. But then realising, COVID was awesome. But what happens after?
Yeah, can't continue.
Yeah, something's got to change. So and we're starting to see that now. I think you guys are seeing that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So hence the reason, defence, mining, industrial. He's not where he is because he's a dummy, right?
Yeah.
He's a very clever man.
Yeah, and I think that's what, particularly in like the four-wheel drive community, a lot of people don't understand that companies like Redarc and GME, that we're not four-wheel drive companies, that we do a whole broad range of stuff, and we have to because the four-wheel drive market's lumpy. Because
that's right.
It's a luxury for a lot of people, right?
When I've been talking about the pocket for a while, right? The pocket dries up when things get tight.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is go spend it on your toys.
Yeah.
So
well, we're
it's the
definitely
first
seeing that.
people to hit.
We're
Yeah.
seeing that at the moment with some of the workshops that, you go into the workshops and, hey, you going, boys? And they're like, oh, it's a bit slow. And
Yeah, they've all of a sudden gone from being booked for 3-4 months to being booked for a week or two.
yeah. So, where do you think, I mean, I know you can't reveal the future product roadmap, but like, where do you see the 12-volt stuff going for the four-wheel drive market specifically? Because a lot of my audience are four-wheel drivers. So do you think, we talked about lithium, but is there anything else that you reckon is going to change there in terms of like products or how people use it?
I do.
But you can't talk about it.
No, mate. There's
this is a podcast. If you don't talk about it, it's not very exciting for the audience.
There's some pretty exciting things coming. I think we've got a launch coming it's only a matter of weeks now.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty exciting. Pretty cool stuff. I have seen what's ahead of us, and I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so keep your eyes open. Some cool stuff coming from Redarc.
So you reckon it'll be in a couple of weeks from now?
Let's just say it's not far away.
Because this will probably go to air in about 5 weeks. So technically you could talk about it. We've just got to make sure that you hit your product launch timelines or you'll lose your job.
That's the reason I'm not talking about it.
Yeah. I know, I've played this game before. One thing I was really curious about when I knew I was going to sit down and talk to you, at the moment, the majority of four-wheel drives you're dealing with are diesel and yes, there's some petrol cars. What about electric four-wheel drives? Is that going to change the way all this stuff works?
Yep. So you're going to need an 80 series to get it from the middle of the desert.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to sell that car.
Yeah.
It is for sale, though. If anyone's interested, and you may be surprised, but everything is for sale for a price. Just remember that. So send me your offers.
Look, obviously there's been a few talks about that in the Redarc world and how can we utilise what is coming to market. Look, me personally, this is not Redarc, me personally, I don't see the electric, and what we know, and what we do, vehicle being an issue for Redarc. I don't see it coming into that space aggressively at all. I think it'll be your weekend warrior car. Look, I've got friends that got electric vehicles. They owned them for a few months and they realised they had to go and buy another vehicle.
Oh, really?
You travel. It's not easy. So Danny was my partner. She was going up to get Lucas from the snow because then he's a bit of a gun AFL player. He was playing state, and that was at Albury, so she had to go up over the top and back down Alpine Way, I think it's called. So she had to go up over there, and our friend had just bought the electric vehicle, and so we did the research on how would we go tracking.
Oh, right. Because you've got to plan your journey to where you can charge the car and all that sort of stuff.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't make it. So it was. So that turned us off just buying a second car as an electric car. So we bought a Jeep.
We had
that discussion, right?
I'm going to restrain myself here because I've got an episode that I shot with Justin from Four Wheel Drive Detail, and it wasn't planned, but I pretty much put it on every vehicle brand, and I feel bad about that. So I'm going to restrain myself from saying anything about Jeeps. I actually think Jeeps are kind of cool.
Look, they're comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable, and as we were chatting about, like that Trackhawk SRT thing, like I'd get around that 700 horsepower or whatever. But I guess with electric four-wheel drives, we know the technology's evolving. What's available now? So there's I don't even think the Cybertruck, irrelevant, because I don't think that's legal in Australia or can be complied.
I don't know. I think it's ugly.
It looks. There's always the joke about it looks like the cars you used to draw when you were like 4 years old. But in America, they got the Rivian, which is kind of cool. They look cool.
They do.
One of my mates, Paul, that used to work at Max Trucks, he hired a Rivian when he was in the States. And he said, yeah, it's cool, but it's not going to replace his 300 series that he has for long distance touring. Do you think that the technology will evolve to a point where there will be sufficient range for those to be a viable touring vehicle in Australia?
Australia's difficult.
Because
we're
big.
Vast.
Yeah.
We are big. I don't see it being successful here in Australia. Overseas, yeah, absolutely, especially through Europe.
Yeah, because you can
infrastructure's there,
and you can drive between countries in a day, not drive from here and go to Queensland.
Twin servos.
Yeah.
Could you imagine it? Like this weekend, you got a queue out the driveway and everybody's filling up in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's move that to half an hour per vehicle.
Mm.
Man, we're going multi-story, and how are we going to get the power there?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right?
Going to run generators.
Diesel Jennies. And this is, I guess, because we talk about it at work quite a lot, you know, like what does the future of a vehicle look like? And a lot of our customers who sell parts to combustion engine vehicles are obviously very focused on that as well. But the big question that no one's been able to answer is who's paying for all the infrastructure?
That's exactly right. That's the big dollar value.
Yeah.
I did speak to a mate that said that's in that world, and he said, look, it wouldn't be that difficult, but the costs are up.
Yeah.
And so, with big transformers, big high voltage lines, it's a lot of juice.
And you've got to get the power, right? Like the grid that continually falls over here, you know.
The grid that we're continually removing coal-powered power stations from that are our biggest supplier of power.
Yeah.
It's...
But it's all right. They're going to build heaps of wind farms in the middle of the ocean. That'd go well at the moment with, you know, the remnants of a cyclone
sitting on the bottom out there right now.
Be good reef for, you know, future fishing. Probably not good for the environment though.
It's just the plastic that falls off those blades. Right?
But it's all right because we coated in the remnants of seabirds that they've murdered along the way. Anyway, if you want to hear me talk heaps of shit about offshore wind farms, have a listen to the episode I did with Tommy from Performance Tours. We got deep into the tinfoil hat brigade with that one.
But I think anyone along this coastline will get in on that conversation.
Oh man, like the thing that we always say about that is like, why don't they just build them off Dover Heights? If that's the answer, just put them off Sydney.
Bloody hideous. That's why.
Yeah, hideous and ineffective, terrible for the environment, short life. You know, that's not the answer. So one of the things that I often think about when we talk about renewable energy was it was a couple of years ago now. Vivid Sydney was on, so there was like heaps of lights on in the city for fun. And we were watching the news, which I don't often do because it makes me angry, but they put out a notice saying the grid's under a lot of pressure, so don't run air conditioners or heaters unless you really need to. And it was the middle of winter and it was cold as buggery. And I was thinking, the elderly people that watch mainstream news are going to sit there and go, I should turn the heater off. I should be a responsible citizen. I'm like, no, you should put your heater on because you're going to get cold. Maybe they should turn Vivid off. Now, I know it's not that simple, but saying, oh, there's demands on the grid and we can't fill the power, but then encouraging people to buy electric cars, how's it gonna work?
So something that I liked hearing once upon a time, I think it's gone pretty stagnant now, was household solar. Charging, yes, it charges your car when it's in the garage during the day, but then you utilise the battery of your car to run your house of an evening. So you don't need a Tesla wall or one of those battery walls.
Yeah, because they're hideously expensive, right?
Yeah. Well, they're not too bad now, but yeah, they're not cheap by any means. So that was pretty exciting, but that's gone stagnant. I haven't heard that for a long time. And then something I spoke about at Redarc a little while ago, and it's been spoken about before me, utilising our caravans. Some of these caravans have got 1,000 amp hours sitting in them. Really? How do we stick that back into our house? How do we utilise that power while it's sitting in our driveway?
And then charge it via solar during the day.
Solar. So some of them got a kilowatt of solar on their roof of those caravans too, so you don't even stick it on your house.
Yeah, right.
But
you basically just got like a big ass charger sitting in your next to you.
That's pretty cool, right? Yeah. You spend a bucket load of coin on your caravan electrical system, but it's also backing your house up.
Yeah, I mean, I recently, I was coming home from work and stopped at one of the servos in West Gosford, right? And I put 140 litres of diesel into my 80.
Ouch.
And pay to play, mate.
Yeah.
It also goes really fast and makes cool noises, so, you know, it's worth it. But, you know, I sat there and put 140 litres in. And it took me, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. And when I arrived, I saw, I think it was like a Volvo or a Polestar or something charging. And I put all this diesel in my car, and then I walked in and paid, and I stuffed around and got a drink, and then I got back in, and
they're still sitting there.
They're still sitting there, and I'm like, if I was driving home from work at this time, and it was about 7 o'clock at night, and I've been at work since about 7 o'clock that morning, the last thing I want to be doing is sitting in a bloody servo charging my car.
Yeah.
So do you think, with your knowledge of electricity, are they going to get to a point where they can charge them a lot faster than what they can currently, or is there a chemical limitation?
So the Volvos do charge a lot faster. Okay. So they've upped their voltage. I don't remember. I remember sitting in a fleet conference and Volvo was giving their spiel. So yeah, they do charge very quickly.
Yeah.
I believe it's up around the 800 volts.
Oh, wow.
Please don't quote me. But so the higher the voltage, the quicker you can get it in.
Yeah.
Same reason we have these big cables and they're running 40,000 volts.
Yeah.
So we stick it through a transformer and bring it down with a lot more current. So yeah, have we reached the height of where we can go? I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Once again, we've got to go to the chemist for that.
Yeah.
And see how much can the lithium actually handle.
Yeah, because then it becomes a safety thing again, right? Like, yes, you can jam it in there, but is it going to be stable? Is it going to be safe?
800 volts sitting under, there's a cable in your car of 800 volts.
And you're sitting in there on your phone waiting for it to charge.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just buy a power block and charge your car. I don't know.
Yeah, well, there you go. Nice. See, you say you're not a salesman, but you sneak in little
we
things
don't sell them.
Hey, so something you touched on earlier, and I didn't pick up on it, but we talked about safety of lithium batteries, and particularly in vehicle. Is it okay to run a lithium battery in the cabin of your vehicle or not?
Yeah,
it is.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. So we do have what we call the caravan standards, and that talks about a habitable space.
Okay.
So somewhere you're going to be sleeping, somewhere you're going to... So yeah, obviously if you're asleep and something should happen, it's probably going to put you to sleep more so.
Yeah. Before you realise what's going on.
But if you're awake, no, it's not a problem. But look, and once again, let's remember, lithium is very safe.
Okay.
What we're hearing a lot about is scooters, push bikes, and look, how many of these kids going past on these bikes? They're doing 70 kilometres an hour.
Yeah.
So a lot of them being frigged around with as well. So we don't know how real that figure is.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of energy. You know, you put a match under a tin of petrol, it's going to blow up eventually.
Yeah.
So if you frig around with something, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a lithium to do that. Look, I was in my caravan before I refitted it, War Hope show 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was staying in my van just around the show, around the back at Timbertown, and I was laying in bed and I just heard this bang. And I was like, what was that? Anyway, my lights still worked and everything. Fortunately, my van has a container like a metal container for the battery. It blew to pieces.
Really?
But I still had power coming out of it because I only had a couple of little LEDs on and there was a few cells holding itself together.
Yeah, really?
I literally shoveled the battery out of that container. So I remember up at Coffs Harbour, a bloke pulled into the car park and there was smoke coming out of his bonnet. We opened the bonnet. The whole battery was dripping.
Lithium?
No.
Oh, right.
Lead acid.
Yeah, right.
So, look, there's not as much energy in one of those and they don't come out. It doesn't explode out.
Yeah.
But geez, they can still do some trouble.
Yeah. So lithium in the car is okay. That's good because I have heaps of lithium in my car. Lithium under bonnet.
So our approach is no.
Okay.
So here's my thought.
Yep.
High temperature under bonnet. What are you spending? $1,500, $2,000 for a lithium battery?
Yep.
Why would you expose it to that? So if you're going to reduce the life expectancy of that $2,000 battery to 3 or 4 years, we're just back down to what an AGM's going to last you.
I was going to say.
It's going to cost you $300 or $400.
Yeah.
So no, I don't believe. Redarc says just no.
Yep.
But yeah, my thought process is no also. Without the Redarc attachment, I believe you're throwing money away.
Yeah, and what's the perceived benefit of running a lithium crank battery anyway?
The guy that built your car has a rough idea on what he was doing.
Yep. Mr. Toyota.
Toyota, Mr. Nissan,
Yep.
whoever it was, Mr. Ford. had a rough idea what he was doing.
Bit of R&D.
Yeah, maybe put a few million into that development. So his alternator was designed to suit that lead acid battery. Pretty sure he had a rough idea what he was doing.
It's probably a bad time to point out that I've changed almost everything on that vehicle from how it was from factory.
You're still though.
But I used a lot of
regulator.
But I still used a lot of Toyota parts when I did it.
So yours has got a temperature compensating alternator in it.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay. So if it sees the temperature go up, it derates itself, just like our BCD.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So, but the algorithm in that regulator is for a lead acid.
Yeah, not a lithium.
Why do we run a BCDC?
Because you're making it, you're using it to charge something that it's not designed to charge.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we're changing the algorithm characteristics of the charging circuit. So
yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's and it's, as I said, I'm not a technical person, but I can understand, why certain things need to be a certain way. The lithium under bonnet, I've never felt the desire to do it, because I don't understand what the benefit is. But I see lots of chatter on various Facebook groups about it, and people saying, "Oh, no, it's fine," and then other people saying, "No, it's not fine," and I still ask why.
I see one box ticked.
Yeah.
Weight.
Yeah.
But it's in a tray that's designed, and we're normally light in the rear in these trucks, right? We're normally chasing a bit of weight out the front because we've got so much, especially mine, so much stuff down the back.
In the back, yeah. I've never really understood the benefit, as opposed to like, I've got some Optima batteries sitting over there, and they're expensive, but they're to run a winch.
Yep.
I'm not going to run lithiums to run my winch because of the amount of punishment that those batteries are going to endure. I know I'm going to kill them. So
there's another example of why you don't go to lithium under bonnet.
Yeah.
The amount of grunt you can pull out of Optimas or AGMs or lead acids continuously.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They're built for a purpose. They're built to pump out in that one hit. Where lithium, that's another thing about lithium. Big thing about building a system, and I'm going to let you in on a bit of a secret.
Yeah.
Batteries aren't batteries.
Okay.
So just because you bought a 100 amp hour battery and your mate bought a 100 amp hour battery doesn't mean you can run your 1200 watt inverter just because he can.
Okay. Because of different brands or different cells?
No, cell, not so much. It's more the BMS that's inside. So the big electrical board,
Electrical board?
That'll do.
Electronics
that are in board. They're limited to output so much juice. So the cells obviously are matched to those BMSs. So just because Olmo's bought a 100 amp hour battery, and look, he may have spent $1,500 on that battery, and you go and buy an $800 one, doesn't mean you bought the same sort of quality. So you have to look at the maximum discharge rate. So for instance, the Alpha in mine, I can run a 2000 watt inverter off one of those.
Yeah, okay.
So 250 amps continuous out of that. Now that's a big figure.
Yep.
A lot of them are 50 and 100.
Okay.
So be very aware of what you're buying when you're building a system. So we sell batteries we sell 100 and 100 HD. So one's 50 and one's 100 amp output. So if you want to run a fridge, buy the HD. If you want to run a big inverter, if you want to run a fridge, buy the blacktop.
The blacktop. So that one's in my GQ normally. It's clearly not in there at the moment for other reasons that will not be discussed on this show. The red top one, HD. So we had this discussion a while ago. So I can't run an inverter off that battery. It's not designed to.
You can if you put a few more in with it.
Okay.
So for that one, that's the blacktop. That's just the standard 100.
Yeah.
So 50 amp output on that one. So if you had 4 of them, you do the math.
Yep.
200 amps.
Yep.
Okay. So it's still 12 volt.
Okay. But that battery I bought to run a fridge. Yep. And that's all it's ever designed to do. So
hang some lights off it, run a fridge.
No lights.
Yeah.
We don't have any lights in the GQ. It's a fridge.
But so it's perfect for that. And you know what? You just saved yourself a fortune.
Yeah.
Because you bought what you need.
Yeah.
And that doesn't say, like, and that's the beauty of the new Alpha BCDC. You can buy that battery today because that's what you can afford and that's what you need. And your build expands. Well, the Manager Alpha is still pumping out 50 amps because that can handle it.
Yeah, right.
And then you go to the bigger battery bank, more output. You're just swapping the batteries around.
Yeah, and I guess that's good advice for anyone, right? Like, you don't have to have the latest and greatest, but like having things that are expandable in the future. And I think that's where, I mean, my 80's been a learning curve for me, and it continues to be a learning curve. I've replaced so many things in that, but some of them are due to abuse, some of them are due to learning, but it's all part of the fun, right? But I guess, you know, if you can afford to buy a certain part of the system and then build the other parts around it as you get the money or as you get the need, then that's really good rather than having to replace the whole thing every time, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And so buy once, buy smart, right? Poor man buys twice. But the beauty of the new R, which we touched on previously, basically it's the same as that Manager you're putting in your your 80.
Yeah.
But without 240.
Oh, okay.
So we've recognised that not everybody plugs into 240.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us don't.
I personally love it.
Yeah, so do
So
I. To get out of jail.
Before we go on a trip, my ritual is to get all of this shit behind us and work out how to fit it into a wagon. And while I'm doing that, I turn the fridge on, load up with all of our food that we're taking away, and then plug the Manager into 240 so that when I get up in the morning to leave, and I've got a full battery, a cold fridge.
Yeah.
And then
done.
I know I'm starting from the best possible, you know, as opposed to going, oh, I should turn my fridge on. It's a hot fridge, putting cold food into it, and then immediately putting straight in the system. So that 240 input, I love it.
Yeah.
When I first got it, I was like, why would I need this? But now I've got a permanent cord running out behind my back seat.
And look, you put it in standby mode, and it looks after your batteries.
Yeah.
It manages your batteries for you. So, you know, they're a big investment.
Are you suggesting that I shouldn't have really expensive batteries just sitting on the floor of my shed?
It's your call, mate. I'll sell you another one.
Yeah, look, they had to come out because I had to, as you can see, there's a number of high mount winches around.
At least put it on the rubber mat, will you?
Oh, is the concrete a problem?
Yeah.
Good. Well, yes.
You go lay on that concrete, see how long you last.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah, well, very good, mate. It's been educational for me. So what's the best place for people to find out information? Of course, if they go to a show and they see you or one of the other Redarc boys, you know, you've always got the big setups there. But is there like a particular place that you'd suggest people go to do research when it comes to 12 volt?
Yeah, look, when it comes to 12 volt, I always say do your own research, get a complete understanding. The Redarc page is full of information.
As in the website?
Yeah, there's heaps of stuff in there. And it continues to grow. So the more we hear from you guys, the quicker we build that website. But yeah, do your own research, get a good understanding of what you need, what you're going to be doing. So you come and see me, make sure you know how long you're going to be driving and what you're going to be running off the thing. Because unless I know that, how much roof space you have, unless I know that, I'm sort of just grabbing things and just building a very generic system. But we have RedNet members.
Okay.
So these are auto electricians like myself.
Yeah.
Who we actually spend a lot of time with. So we got a conference coming up. They all come to that.
Oh, yeah.
We actually show them. They get a sneak peek. So a lot of the cool stuff coming.
That's pretty cool.
We ask them what we need to do differently.
Okay.
So, you know, there might be a bolt that needs to be 10 mil more.
Oh, so like from a product development perspective?
Absolutely, yeah. They're working with it.
Yeah.
Get their input. You know, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So,
and that's really important, right? Because you've got the engineers, very smart. I love engineers. We couldn't live without them, but there's then the real world, and sometimes the two, there's a bit of lost in translation, right?
Well put.
It's about as politically correct as I can be.
Yeah, look, they're amazing people, and we do need them. But yeah, sometimes there's a little bit lost in translation there.
Yeah. And from my own personal experience, when I've been trying to figure out how to use my Redarc gear, is there FAQs or like there's a place where you can interact with the service guys, right?
Yeah. So 1300 Redarc
Yeah.
is the easiest. Pick up the phone. help@redarc.com.au.
Yeah. I've seen some of the like back and forths. They're published somewhere, so and it's pretty good because it's like an FAQ, right?
Yeah. And look, I don't like promoting it, but the guys are amazing, even if you don't have 100% Redarc system.
Yeah.
Like these guys are switched on. I reach out to them sometimes for information because the amount of things they're having to find out every day is massive. You know, it's a huge encyclopedia of information.
Well, and there's so many different configurations and I guess the interoperation of different brands and different batteries, and you know the dramas that I've had, and your service guys have been so good with me and so patient.
And it's not because it's you; it's just because you're a person.
No, and they wouldn't know me from a bar of soap, mate.
Probably not. Yeah.
No, well, you know, oh, mate, it's Tony from GME here. Drop what you're doing. That's it. It's none of that shit. It's
you know, Q, mate.
no, but they've been really good, and you know, ultimately we've narrowed the problem down. It's not a Redarc thing that's causing the problem, but despite that, they've still been really helpful and been able to
and
try
the
and
app comes in really handy too, right? Like I got you to send me your config file, so I can just go through it, and I'm like, yeah, man, it's all good. And then we started talking about dates, and it's like, oh, okay, we know what the issue is. Boom, done. Product arrives at Brisbane for you. Yeah,
that was hilarious. But and I guess that's where like the technological advancement of this stuff, it's so impressive, right? Like having apps where you can just pull the configuration out and send it to someone, and as opposed to back in the day it was all auto elect, right?
The stuff I'm seeing coming, mind blowing. So watch this space.
Awesome. Well, we'll leave it there, mate, but thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate it, Marty.
Thank you, mate. Thanks, Dan.
And we will see all of you next time on the outer side.